The first moment I realized something was wrong was when the waiter stopped pretending not to judge me. I saw it in his eyes. A flicker of pity, a flash of annoyance, and that sharp look people give you when they think you don't belong somewhere as fancy as Harborview. A place where the chandeliers looked like they cost more than my garage tools combined. I sat alone at the table for two, my borrowed dress tight across my ribs, my hands folded carefully so no one would see the oil deep in the lines of my knuckles. I had scrubbed them 3 times before leaving home. It didn't help. Grease is honest. It stays. I checked my phone again. No message. No explanation. Nothing. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Then 30. The couple at the table beside me started whispering, and I knew exactly who they were whispering about. The woman in pearls covered her mouth as she stole another look at me. Her date smirked like he'd been waiting all week to witness someone else's embarrassment. I kept my back straight. I lifted my chin. If humiliation was coming, at least I wouldn't run from it. Not here. Not in front of strangers who'd never understand what it means to fight for every dollar and every bit of dignity you have left. But inside, something heavy settled in my chest, because I already knew the truth. Nobody was coming. I had been set up, not by the man I'd been texting. He never existed. No, this had Marcus written all over it. A guy I'd known back in college. The kind who'd always laughed a little too hard when someone was struggling. He and 2 others had money now, corporate jobs, and the same cruelty they'd had at 19. And I was their entertainment for tonight. My hands shook as I reached for my wallet. I wasn't crying. I refused to cry. I would just pay for the water and leave before the whole restaurant decided to join in the show. But before I could place the bills on the table, the doors at the entrance swung open with a gust of cold air. Every head turned. A man walked in holding a little girl on his hip. He didn't look like anyone else in Harborview. Not because of the suit. Other men had suits. Not because of the confidence. Other men had that too. It was the air around him. Like the room bent itself around his presence. He wasn't even trying to be intimidating, he just was. And the little girl, 3, maybe 4, was bright-eyed and curious. Her small hand clutched the collar of his jacket while she looked around the room like everything was new and exciting. She noticed details the way kids do, pure, direct. Her eyes landed on me. Then she pointed. Loud enough for half the restaurant to hear, she said, "Daddy, that lady has the same dirty hands as Tony who fixes our motorcycles." The world froze. The Pearls woman choked on her laughter. Someone at the bar lifted their phone, like this was a show worth recording. Heat rushed up my neck. My humiliation was now a public event, with witnesses on all sides. I wanted to sink into the floor. Before I could move, the little girl wriggled out of her father's arms and marched straight toward me. I panicked. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. My brain was too busy screaming at me to leave. But she climbed onto the empty chair across from mine like she'd been invited. Her father reached her seconds later, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. Up close, he was even more striking. Dark eyes, controlled movements, a calmness that wasn't softness, the kind of calm that came from knowing no one in the room would dare cross him. He gave me a polite apology, his voice low, smooth, a warning disguised as courtesy. "I'm sorry, she's still learning about personal space." I swallowed hard. "It's okay." But the waiter who'd been trying to hand me the bill suddenly backed away like he'd touched fire. The entire restaurant shifted. I didn't understand why, but everyone else clearly knew exactly who this man was. The girl leaned her elbows on the table. "Do you fix cars and motorcycles? My daddy has a lot of motorcycles." Her smile was so genuine it cracked something inside me. For the first time all night, someone wasn't looking at me with disgust, pity, or amusement. She was just curious. Just a kid. "Yes," I said softly. "I'm a mechanic." Her eyes lit up. "I like you." I froze. Her father froze. The whole room seemed to hold its breath. Then, before her father could stop her, she said loudly, "Can she eat dinner with us?" I opened my mouth to decline, to apologize, to run, but he looked at me. Really looked. His eyes flicked to the untouched menu. The unused place setting. The folded cash in my hand. The stain on my sleeve I'd tried to hide. And something in his expression changed. Not pity, not judgment. Recognition. "Do you have somewhere you need to be?" he asked quietly. My throat tightened. "No." "Then join us." Just like that. A stranger, a powerful man, a room full of shocked faces. And a child who'd reached across a gulf I didn't even know how to bridge. I said yes. I didn't know that choice would unravel my entire life. I didn't know it would pull me into a world where loyalty was currency, danger lived in the shadows, and trust was earned in blood. I didn't know it would bind me to a little girl who would change everything. And I definitely didn't know the man sitting across from me was the city's most feared name. All I knew was that for the first time that night, I wasn't alone. I had no idea my life had just begun. I never thought sitting at a dinner table could feel like standing on the edge of a cliff. But that's exactly how it felt when Vincent Moretti pulled out the chair beside his daughter and nodded for me to take the one across from them. Yes, that. Moretti. I didn't fully understand who he was yet, but the room did. Every waiter suddenly moved more carefully. Every diner lowered their voice. And every glance shifted away from me and straight toward him, like the entire restaurant had been waiting for him to speak. But his attention was on one person only. Me. Lucy sat beside him, swinging her legs, clueless to the tension she created by simply existing. "Rachel fixes motorcycles," she announced proudly, like we'd been best friends forever instead of strangers for 5 minutes. Vincent's brow lifted slightly. "Does she?" I swallowed hard. "I do. Mostly older models. Engines that still breathe, not the computerized ones." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Good. Those are the ones that matter." Quote. The waiter rushed to our table then, actually rushed, placing menus down like they were holy offerings. His voice trembled when he asked what we wanted to drink. Lucy interrupted before either of us could speak. "Daddy, can she sit with us every Tuesday? Tony retired and she knows things." My heart skipped. Vincent didn't look annoyed. He looked interested, thoughtful, as if this tiny girl had spoken something that made sense to him. "We'll see," he said gently, smoothing her hair. Then he looked at me again. "Rachel, order anything you like." Anything I liked cost more than my weekly groceries, but I nodded politely and pretended to read the menu, picking something cheap just to survive the moment. Dinner started awkwardly. I didn't know where to put my hands. I didn't know if I should talk or stay quiet. I didn't know why I was here at all, except that a little girl had pointed and declared she liked my dirty hands. But then Lucy started talking about school and butterflies and motorcycles and the cake she saw in the display case, and little by little, the room around us faded. Her joy was like sunlight in a place where everything had felt cold. She leaned across the table and asked, "Do your hands ever get shiny from the oil?" "Mine got shiny once when I played with Daddy's wrench." Vincent shot her a warning look. "You were not supposed to be in the garage." She grinned unapologetically. "But Rachel goes in garages whenever she wants, right?" I smiled. "Pretty much." The way she brightened made my entire evening soften. I didn't notice the stares anymore. I didn't notice the woman in pearls. I didn't even notice the waiter setting down wine that clearly wasn't meant for someone like me. I only noticed the way Vincent watched Lucy with absolute devotion. And the way he watched me with something else, something searching. Halfway through dinner, he asked quietly, "Why were you sitting alone, Rachel?" My fork stopped midair. I wasn't ready to admit the truth, the prank, the fake date, the cruelty. But Lucy looked at me with innocent expectation, waiting for my answer. "I thought someone was meeting me," I finally said. Vincent didn't look surprised, and they didn't show. I forced a small breath. No. A muscle in his jaw tightened, just for a moment. A flash of anger that wasn't directed at me. His voice stayed calm. "People who do things like that are cowards." Something in the way he said it sent a chill up my spine. Cowards. Like it wasn't insult. Like it was fact. Like he was used to dealing with real danger, not petty cruelty. Lucy reached across the table and touched my hand. "It's okay. We're here." I didn't know a 3-year-old's voice could break something inside an adult. But mine cracked open right there. After dinner, dessert arrived without us ordering it. Chocolate cake for the table. Lucy smeared half of hers across her face. I laughed before I could stop myself. Vincent looked at me then, really looked, like the sound surprised him. "Stay for dessert," he said softly. "Please." I stayed. When it was time to leave, Vincent stood first and lifted Lucy effortlessly into his arms. She yawned against his shoulder but still reached one hand toward me. "Can she come again?" she whispered. He answered her, but his eyes stayed on me. "Yes, she can." My chest tightened. Then he handed me a small card, a number written on it, nothing else. "Text me when you get home so I know you're safe." "I can call a taxi." "No," he said simply. "I already arranged one." I hesitated. "Why?" His gaze held mine, steady and unreadable. "Because someone should have looked out for you tonight, since they didn't." "I will." My heart stuttered at the quiet certainty in his voice. I didn't know who Vincent Moretti really was. I didn't know the world he lived in. I didn't know the danger threaded through his calm words. All I knew was that when he said "I will," I believed him. I texted him when I got home. Made it back. "Thank you." His reply came in seconds. "Tuesday, 2 p.m. Come see the motorcycles." And then, "Lucy will be waiting." I didn't know it yet, but that message was the beginning of everything. When Tuesday came, I tried to convince myself I wasn't nervous, but my hands betrayed me. They always do. They shook the same way they had the day I opened my garage for the first time, when I didn't know if anyone would trust a girl with a wrench. Driving up the long road toward the Moretti estate felt unreal. My old pickup rattled like it didn't belong anywhere near the tall stone gate that guarded the property. When the iron doors opened before I even pressed the call button, my stomach tightened. Someone had been watching for me. I parked beside a black Mercedes worth more than my entire garage and stepped out just as the front door burst open. Lucy ran toward me full speed in yellow rain boots, yelling my name like she'd been waiting for the sun to rise. "Rachel! Rachel! Rachel!" She launched herself at my legs and I laughed, catching her before she fell backwards. "You came," she said breathlessly. "I said I would. I told her." "Daddy said you would." "I said you better." Quote. Her confidence made something warm bloom in my chest. Before I could respond, I saw him. Vincent stepped out of the doorway with an umbrella in one hand. He wasn't smiling, but his eyes softened in a way that felt like a private smile only I could see. "You're right on time," he said, moving closer. I nodded, suddenly aware of every flaw in my clothes, the smudge of grease on my jeans, the way my boots squeaked from the rain. But he didn't look at me like I didn't belong. He looked at me like I fit. Lucy dragged me toward a long outbuilding behind the house, a renovated structure that looked like it once held horses, now polished glass and steel. Inside, I stopped breathing. Motorcycles, dozens of them. History lined up like artwork. My heart leaped the way it only does around engines. "Daddy says this one is his favorite," Lucy said, pointing at a red Ducati. I crouched beside it and touched the metal gently. The engine felt familiar, loved, but tired. "This one needs care," I murmured. "I thought so," Vincent said behind me. I turned. His eyes held curiosity, respect, something more. He wasn't watching the motorcycles. He was watching me with them. For the next hour, I talked engines. I explained carburetors to Lucy and showed her how cables worked. She clapped at everything I said, even when it wasn't exciting. Vincent listened the whole time. Not pretending, not being polite, actually listening. When he finally spoke, his words made my breath stop. "I'd like to hire you," he said, "to care for the collection." My voice came out small. "I already have the garage. This doesn't replace it. You'll come here as often as you want. Set the schedule. Name your price." I shook my head. "Why me?" "Because you respect machines," he said. "And because my daughter likes you." Lucy wrapped her arms around my leg. "I like her a lot." I tried to laugh, but it came out uneven. That's when the moment shifted. A car I didn't recognize pulled up outside the garage. Sleek, expensive, and wrong. Even before the door opened, I felt the tension in the room change. Lucy tensed. Vincent's posture straightened like steel. The woman who stepped out looked like she belonged in a magazine. Perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect confidence. Her eyes landed on me like I was a stain on her carpet. "Who is this?" she demanded. Lucy stepped behind me, gripping my shirt. Shock rippled through me. It was the first time she'd hidden behind me instead of her father. Vincent didn't flinch. "Elise, you're early." My stomach twisted. Her mother. Elise walked closer, heels clicking sharply on the concrete. "I heard a mechanic has been spending time with my daughter, and I want to know exactly why." Her voice was sharp enough to cut through metal. I opened my mouth to speak, but Vincent's hand landed gently on my shoulder. Protective, steady. "She's here because I hired her," he said. "Because she's good at what she does." Elise's eyes narrowed. "And what else is she good at, Vincent?" Heat rushed up my neck. I'd been insulted before, plenty of times, but never like this. Never with a child watching. "I'm here to work," I said quietly. "That's all." Elise took a step toward me. "My daughter is not your project. Do you understand? You don't get to walk into her life without—" "Mom!" Lucy cried, grabbing my hand again. "Don't be mean to Rachel!" The garage went silent. Elise froze. Vincent finally spoke, voice low and controlled. "Enough." The word held weight. "Heavy! Final!" Elise swallowed, looking shaken. Not by me, but by her daughter choosing my side. Then she said something that changed everything. "People saw you with her at Harborview." "They're talking, Vincent. They think you might be replacing me with her." Her voice cracked at the last word, and suddenly I saw the truth beneath her anger. Fear. Not of me, but of losing her place in the only family she had left. Lucy tugged my hand again. "Rachel's not replacing you. Rachel's just Rachel." God, that child. She understood things no adult could say without making everything worse. Elise blinked rapidly, then exhaled. I overreacted. Vincent nodded once. "We'll discuss custody later." Privately. Elise turned to me, eyes softer but still guarded. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way." Quote. "It's okay," I whispered. But it wasn't, because for the first time I realized what getting close to this family meant. This was not a simple job. Not a simple friendship. Not a simple dinner gone wrong. This was stepping into a world where loyalty mattered more than safety, where children loved without hesitation, and where danger lived just outside the front gate. And standing there in the garage, grease on my hands and a child wrapped around my leg, I knew something terrifying and undeniable. I wasn't walking away. Not from Lucy. Not from Vincent. Not from whatever this was becoming. If anyone had told me that one blind date prank would lead me into a new life, a new family, and a new future, I would have laughed in their face. Back then, I didn't even believe in luck. Only work. Only survival. But everything changed the day Lucy ran to me in the garage and grabbed my hand like she'd known me forever. Everything changed the day Vincent looked at me like I wasn't invisible. And everything changed the night Elise walked in, terrified of losing her daughter, and realized I wasn't trying to take anything from her. I was trying to give Lucy something she already deserved. Stability, love, safety. Things none of them had fully felt in a long time. After the confrontation with Elise, the tension around the estate slowly softened. She kept her distance at first, showing up for scheduled custody visits with polite nods and stiff small talk. But she watched Lucy. And she watched me. And I could tell, bit by bit, her fear melted into something else. Acceptance. Maybe even trust. Weeks turned into months. Every Tuesday, I worked on the motorcycles. And every Tuesday, Lucy became my shadow. She handed me tools. She drew pictures of motorcycles with wings. She told me about dreams, where engines talked to her in friendly robot voices. And Vincent, he watched all of it. Sometimes he stood in the doorway, arms folded, silent, but present. Other times he knelt beside me to hold a light or help steady a wheel. His hands were steady, strong, capable. They reminded me of machines built to last. I saw the man people feared in the city, the calm, calculating mind, the sharp eyes. But I also saw the father who carried Lucy to bed when she fell asleep on the floor. The man who checked the locks twice at night. The man who listened to poetry while drinking late-night whiskey. I saw all of him. The darkness and the light. And instead of running, I stepped closer. Vincent never rushed anything. Not with me. Not with us. But one evening, after Lucy had gone to bed, he finally said the words that changed everything. "You're part of this family now. Whether you intended to be or not." I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. My chest ached with something warm and terrifying. "Are you sure?" I whispered. He nodded once. "Lucy loves you, and I trust you." Trust. From a man who lived in a world built on loyalty and betrayal, that was bigger than love. But life isn't a straight line. Peace never lasts forever in the Moretti world. One morning, I arrived at my garage to find the doors kicked in, tools thrown everywhere, machines smashed, the place I'd built with my own hands violated as if someone wanted to erase everything I'd created. My knees almost buckled. Before I could even call Vincent, he appeared at the doorway, his face carved from stone. He didn't ask questions at first. He only pulled me into his chest, hands steady on my back. Then he spoke, voice low and deadly. "This is a message. Someone's trying to use you to get to me." My heart pounded. Am I in danger? "You're under my protection," he said simply. "That means you're safer than anyone who tries to threaten you." And I believed him, because when Vincent decided something, it became reality. That same day, he moved me into the estate, officially this time. Not as a guest, not as a worker, as someone who mattered. Lucy reacted like it was Christmas morning and her birthday combined. She dragged my bags through the hallway, insisting I sleep in the room closest to hers so she could check if I'm still there every morning. Maria set a second plate for me at dinner without asking a single question. And Elise, she didn't fight it. She simply pulled me aside once and said softly, "Just take care of my daughter. She adores you." It wasn't approval, it wasn't friendship, it was respect. And that was enough. Months passed. Small routines became big ones. My clothes slowly migrated into Vincent's closet. My tools filled his garage. My coffee mug became permanent on his kitchen counter. His hand found mine without hesitation. My heart recognized home in the sound of Lucy's laughter. And for the first time, I let myself imagine a life I hadn't dared dream of. One afternoon, Vincent took me back to the motorcycle garage. The Ducati, the one Lucy loved, sat gleaming like new after all the hours I'd poured into it. He stood beside me quietly, almost nervous. Then he handed me a ring, not with a big speech, not with an audience, not with theatrics, just him and me, and the sound of rain on the metal roof. "Marry me," he said, "not because of obligation, not because of the life we've built. Marry me because you choose me, the man I am, the father I am, the parts of me you understand and the parts you don't." Quote. My voice broke. "And Lucy?" His eyes softened. "She already calls you her heart." I cried, not from fear, not from shock, but because, for the first time in my life, I felt chosen. I felt seen. I felt loved. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, Vincent." He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. Then he kissed me, slow, sure, with the kind of promise that reaches down to your soul. Lucy burst into the garage moments later, saw the ring, and screamed so loudly Maria came running. "Does this mean you're my mom now?" I laughed through tears. "If you want me to be." "I do," she shouted, throwing her arms around both of us. "We're a family forever." Vincent held us both, one arm around me, one around his daughter, and whispered, "Forever." Our wedding was small, soft, filled with real faces, real love, and real laughter. Lucy walked me down the aisle because she insisted she had first claim. Vincent cried when he saw us. Maria cried the entire ceremony. Elise stood in the front row, smiling with something gentle in her eyes. And when the officiant asked if we promised to protect one another through all things, Vincent squeezed my hand and said, I already do. I said, always. Lucy said loudly, and me too, quote. Everyone laughed, and it felt right. Later that night, when the guests had gone and Lucy slept, curled between her stuffed rabbit and motorcycle toy, I sat beside Vincent on the balcony. The city lights glowed in the distance. His arm wrapped around my shoulders. The ring glinted on my finger. Do you ever think about the prank? I asked softly. He kissed my temple. Only that it brought you to me. I smiled. It destroyed my heart that night. He exhaled. And now? I leaned into him. Now it feels like it was leading me somewhere better. He pulled me closer. It led you home. And he was right. Because I had found everything I never knew I needed. A daughter who loved me before she knew me, a man who protected me before I understood why, and a family that rebuilt everything my past had broken. All because 3 cruel people tried to humiliate me. Instead, they changed my fate.